The DPW's director and mayor have opposing views on how the water crisis was handled.
We did struggle the first 24 hours. We needed help.
How city leaders are responding to the DPW's admission of fault and the work still to be done in identifying the source of contamination. Some West Baltimore residents still don't think their water is safe. What Fox 45 News is doing to restore their trust. City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby's federal trial postponed to next year. Experts weigh in on how developments during the hiatus could impact her case.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala.
And I'm Riel Creighton. Kai Jackson has the night off. Our top story tonight, a surprising admission from the director of the Department of Public Works during a fiery hearing into the water contamination in West Baltimore.
That's right. Director Jason Mitchell saying the department made mistakes and needs to make changes.
We did struggle the first 24 hours. And I said that earlier, and I will say that again. We struggled. We needed help. It doesn't take long, as you can imagine, but I think to your point, and to my opening remarks and my closing remarks, there was a lot of lessons learned, right? And communication was a huge lesson.
Well, that contradicts what we heard from Mayor Scott. He has maintained that there was no problem with how the department handled the situation, including the communication. At one point, the mayor's office did release a statement saying that he regrets that the public wasn't informed earlier, but he clarified that is because the communication could not have happened sooner.
The regret is simply about not being able to go through the process faster, Keith. As I just said to me, we want to get that information out as quickly as possible, but when you have to follow regulations, we're going to follow those regulations. And sometimes that causes us not to be able to do things that we want to do in the haste that we do. But again, I think for your viewers in particular, for folks to know is that we follow every regulation.
But it seems to be that it's a department plagued with problems, perhaps mismanaged. And I know that a lot of people we've talked to say that they want to see some sort of accountability when it comes to how this, especially this situation, was handled. Communication seemed to be bungled. How do you plan to make sure that the community sees that someone is held accountable for this?
So again, Mackenzie, there was no misbundling of communication. You weren't here the other day, but we laid that out, that we follow the protocol of how you communicate and how you have to, MD has to say to DPW, yes, you can say this at this time. That was followed. We're going to follow every rule and every regulation. And when you're talking about an issue like this, again, this wasn't something that DPW mismanaged.
We reached out to the mayor's office today asking if, in the light of the director's apology today, the mayor has changed his view on how the department handled the situation. A spokesperson for the mayor did not directly answer that question in her response, saying in part, "We have started to assess where matters could have been coordinated differently internally that would have allowed for more efficiency around messaging and outreach externally." You can find the full response on our Twitter page at foxbaltimore.com.
Well, city council members sharply criticizing DPW for their handling of the situation today. One councilman saying he believes DPW failed to meet the requirements of the Safe Drinking Water Act by not informing the public within 24 hours.
DPW was in violation of the requirements to provide notification.
Why we're here is because of the way that it was handled. The most critical time in a crisis is those first 24 hours. And frankly, I'm disgusted on how those first 24 hours was handled.
I think the city failed. I think the entire city failed with this.
Well, now Fox 45 News is taking matters into our own hands, conducting our own independent tests of the water. Fox 45's Keith Daniels is documenting the process to help residents get some peace of mind.
Well, when you take a drink or use the water in your home, you want to be confident that it's safe, no contamination. But for some residents in West Baltimore, their confidence is shaken, especially for one woman. And tonight, we're doing what we can to help ease those concerns. In this Harlem Park neighborhood in West Baltimore, taking steps toward testing. 2 EPA-certified water samplers from 2 Maryland Department of Environment approved water testing laboratories.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
At the home of Denise Knight.
Now we're moving in the right direction. Now at least
maybe I can get some peace.
Knight unnerved since the E. coli contamination water scare over the Labor Day weekend. Skepticism still prevalent despite the lifting of the no boil advisory announced by Mayor Brandon Scott Friday and the water cleared for use in homes. The woman in the window Tuesday not buying it.
I'm not drinking the water yet.
But now Knight is perhaps one step closer to peace of mind. Fox 45 News reached out to several MDE-approved water testing labs to test Knight's water. Fountain Valley Analytical and Atlantic Blue Water Services, who submit samples to MDE-approved water testing labs of Maryland, selected for the job. Our camera documents their sample gathering.
Got something called thiosulfate in here that counteracts the chlorine.
We want to make sure everything's sterile before we put it in the bottle so that we don't get any contamination from here. All right, I'm all finished.
Earlier this week, Knight told us there is one thing that could possibly convince her that her drinking water is safe.
I would like for the mayor to drink this water. And if he likes, he can come over and have a glass of water with me.
We took Knight's challenge to the mayor, invited him to drink the water in the affected area to show residents it's safe. The mayor's office responded, his director of communications, Monica Lewis, saying in part, Mayor Scott will not engage in any stunts or theatrics. Still, Knight says,
not knowing, that's a scary thing.
Since the contamination emergency, she's been drinking bottled water, despite what the mayor says.
I hope he was right. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but, this test will tell.
Well, the water samples are now at the lab. We're waiting for the results. We'll keep you posted. Reporting tonight, Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
That brings us to our question of the day. Who would you trust to fix the Department of Public Works? Mayor Brandon Scott, City Council, both or neither? So far, 96% of those who have voted say neither. You can go to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in.
Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby will have to wait another 6 months for her federal trial. The judge in the case announced today the jury trial will begin on March 27th. Now, this is the second time the trial was moved. It was originally scheduled for May, and then it was moved to September 19th. Fox 45's Jeff Abel was in court today. He has a look at how this delay could impact the case.
Well, this case isn't expected to hit the courtroom now for another 6 months. And in that time, experts say a lot can happen to change its course.
She had asked the court for a speedy trial, but today, State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby learned her federal perjury trial has been delayed for another 6 months.
Is what it is. You got the court's order, and we're going to follow it.
You wanted a speedy trial?
Yeah. This is as fast as the court could do it.
During a 2-hour hearing this afternoon, the judge rescheduled the trial for March 27. The delay comes after Mosby's own defense team added an expert witness to their case, forcing prosecutors to ask for more time to request a witness of their own.
They asked for a speedy trial, but you have to remember, the Mosby defense team caused these delays.
It does appear that the defense in this case has really forced the postponements.
Prosecutors also demanded to know more about one of Mosby's witnesses who claims that her net worth declined by 30% during the pandemic and compares the decline of her non-operational travel business with the decline of other U.S. corporations. But Assistant U.S. Attorney Leo Rise asked the judge, I have no idea how Walt Disney World is comparable to Mahogany Elite Enterprises. Meanwhile, experts say the 6-month delay in the case could cause further complications.
I don't expect the theories to change much, but there's always the risk that witnesses may become unavailable.
If the government has more time to get a rebuttal expert or to parse through Mosby's representations of what she will present at trial, I think it definitely puts them in a better position.
Prosecutors have asked the judge to impose a gag order in the case after Mosby's defense attorney blasted government prosecutors outside the courthouse this week. She has yet to impose one.
This is simply a distraction. This is a very learned judge and a judge not interested in the antics.
As for the gag order, the judge is expected to decide in October. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
So here is a look at the new timeline for the case. The defense will provide more information on their witnesses on October 7th. There will be 2 hearings in January, both on motion and deadlines. And then there will be a pretrial hearing on March 7th. Jury selection is scheduled for March 23rd and 24th. And again, that trial date is set to begin on March 27th.
And when leaving the courtroom after the trial was delayed, Mosby's attorney, A. Scott Bolden, was vocal in his displeasure. This was yesterday.
And they've told us repeatedly they didn't want experts, they didn't need experts. And now on the eve of trial, they report to the court on the record that they're going to use experts. All right? If I could curse, I'd tell you it was all bullshit. Right?
Well, Bolden apologized for those comments today in court as prosecutors seek a gag order based on that post-hearing gathering. As Jeff mentioned, a decision on that request won't be made until at least October 7th.
New tonight, friends, teammates, and family of Jeremiah Brogdon gathered at Mervo High School tonight to hold a vigil in his honor at the school's football field where he used to play for the Mustangs. Brogdon was shot and killed in front of the school on Friday, September 2nd. His coach, Patrick Nixon, presented Jeremiah's mother with his jersey.
I also want to thank you, Mom, for giving us opportunity to coach your son, do our best to mentor your son, love your son, and to receive the love that he gave each and every last one of us. I just want to sincerely say my condolences and thank you again for giving me that opportunity to get to know you and your son.
Brogdon's family was given another jersey that he last played in and that he will be buried with.
Next on Fox 45 News, a local case making national headlines. Adnan Syed's guilty verdict 22 years ago is on the verge of being vacated. Why the office that fought for 2 decades to keep the conviction is just now changing its tune. The evidence emerging. Plus, Maryland's most wanted, a Bonnie and Clyde capture, and a search for a woman accused of arson.
We're in for a gorgeous day tomorrow as high temperatures reach the low 80s, but we're talking a big warm up, making it feel more like summer. I'll tell you when that happens and how hot we'll get coming up.
And still ahead, squish on sight. Lanternfly populations exploding. Where they're turning up along with the ones found by our viewers. With some new information following the raid of Mar-a-Lago, a federal judge has appointed a longtime New York judge to serve as the person who will sort through the records and set aside documents that could be covered by attorney-client or executive privilege. Raymond Dearie was viewed by both former President Trump's counsel and the DOJ as a suitable option. Dearie was the chief judge of the federal court in Brooklyn. There is a November 23rd deadline for the review, and classified documents will be prioritized.
Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby has a few months left in office. She was voted out in June. Ivan Bates won the Democratic primary election.
And she is using those last few months to make some pretty high-profile decisions. Her office is now trying to vacate the sentence of Adnan Syed, the man convicted of killing his girlfriend, Hayman Lee, in 2000.
Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost explains how the timing of Mosby's decision is raising some new questions about motive.
Adnan Syed's case gripped the country following the podcast Serial, and then was the focus of several books and other podcasts later. More than 20 years after his conviction, Marilyn Mosby says he should get a new trial because of new evidence. But the move comes just hours before jury selection was scheduled to begin in Mosby's own federal case. Chronicled on the hit podcast Serial, Adnan Syed and his case back in the spotlight after Marilyn Mosby and her office filing a motion in court asking a judge to vacate Syed's murder conviction. Mosby says new evidence and two unnamed suspects now identified have resulted in the state lacking confidence in the integrity of the conviction. The timing of the motion itself, though, raising even more questions about Mosby's motives.
It's totally bizarre.
Attorney Kurt Nachman says as Mosby's own future hangs in the balance, she could be using the high-profile move to drum up support or distract from the federal charges against her.
The timing is absolutely curious in terms of coincidental with her trial and attempting to pander to Adnan Syed's followers.
News of the filing broke as Mosby walked into federal court Wednesday, where a judge delayed her trial again. Given the lengthy history of Syed and failed attempts at a new trial,
every single court that's seen his case has rejected his appeals.
Sean Kennedy with the Maryland Public Policy Institute says Mosby's motion was nothing but strategic.
She's had 8 years to review this case, and now she finds compelling evidence after she's been booted from office and after the federal court is going forward with her trial. It's not a coincidence that Marilyn Mosby is doing something that's in her best interest.
As Mosby's trial is pushed again, the calendar gets closer to when she will be out of a job.
She's lost the election. She certainly wants to move on with her life.
Her lead defense attorney, A. Scott Bolden, already talking about how Mosby will soon be unemployed and without income.
She's got a family. She's lost an election. She needs income after January 6th, as you all well know.
With speculation swirling behind motives. Ms. Mosby, was the Syed case a distraction from you for this personal matter? Marilyn Mosby herself staying tight-lipped about the driving force behind her news-making decision. More details about when or if Adnan Syed will get a new trial have yet to be released. In Baltimore, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
It's been another gorgeous day. We started the week with rain, but we're ending it on a dry note. And it's also been pretty cool today, especially one of our lowest days, making it feel like fall. Temperatures 80 for the high today, and that's actually average for September 15th. So we were right where we should be, but we're actually looking at a big warm up as we head into the weekend and then into next week. It starts to feel a little more like July and August. Temperatures right now starting to cool down. We're seeing 69 over Towson with clear skies. Winds are light out of the northeast, around 3 miles per hour. And across the rest of the state, we're seeing the 50s and 60s. But again, we've got that big warm up coming this weekend. I'll let you know just how hot it gets coming up in my full forecast. Back to you.
Taking a look at Ravens Stadium, hard to believe we are just 3 days away from their home opener this Sunday against the Miami Dolphins. Ahead in Sports Unlimited, the excitement growing that one of the most exciting weapons on the offense could make his debut, guess what, in front of home fans.
Well, just 6 weeks from early voting, the battle over mail-in ballots intensifies what one candidate for governor does not want to happen and how a court's decision could speed up or slow down the count.
Less than 2 months from Election Day, and the fight intensifying to win over one particular group of voters, why they can make or break a party's chances, coming up.
Topping your Vote 2022 coverage, Republican candidate for governor Dan Cox filing a motion opposing the Maryland State Board of Elections petition asking the courts to allow the board to start opening and counting mail-in ballots as they arrive. The numbers would not be released until after the polls close. According to state law, those votes cannot be counted until after Election Day. In the primary election in July, that created a delay in results. Dan Cox, though, says counting the ballots early creates doubts in the election system. In a statement, he says, quote, the Board of Elections asking the courts to change the rules of election weeks prior to the election being held is unacceptable and further undermines trust in the outcome of elections. Democratic candidate for Governor Wes Moore responded to Cox's motion, saying, in part, at some point, we have to be honest about the fact that Dan Cox just isn't all that into the foundation of American democracy, fair and free elections. The statement goes on to say these attacks are not only dangerous to Maryland, but to our democracy as a whole.
And we are hearing from the candidates less than 2 months before Election Day. Dan Cox and Wes Moore took part in a virtual forum hosted by the nonprofit group Maryland Family Network. The two spoke about the Time to Care Act, currently set to take effect in 2025, that would offer all Maryland workers 12 weeks paid time off for family medical leave. And while Moore is all for it, Cox wants to add some stipulations.
Because the incentive needs to be there. If you just crush the small business community with a mandate, with an unfunded mandate, you won't actually provide more childcare access or time at home with the child. You'll actually cancel the jobs.
When you have the fact that Maryland ranks 7th for the most expensive childcare inside the country, and with costs that are exceeding that of in-state college tuition, we know we have a system that is functionally ruptured and needs to get fixed.
Well, the first official debate between the two candidates is set for October 12th.
Meanwhile, Democrats and Republicans across the nation are working to win over Hispanic voters ahead of the midterm elections.
And there has been a potentially dramatic shift that could have a big impact on this election season. Sinclair Chief Political Correspondent Scott Thuman has the numbers.
Hola, mi nombre es Luisana.
A rare and calculated move, the White House briefing Thursday started in Spanish outreach to the nation's largest non-white group.
Thanks to President Biden, we saw the biggest one-year drop in Latina unemployment.
With midterms less than 2 months away, the presidential just over 2 years, the race is on to win over as many Latino and Hispanic voters possible. For Biden, it's been a struggle to recapture the si se puede or yes we can fervor of his former boss.
It's important for jobs, it's important how much they're paying for food, how much they're paying for their mortgage, and they're not seeing any of that reflected in the policies that are coming from the Democrats.
New analysis by the Wall Street Journal explains though Hispanics still favor Democrats over Republicans, the level of that support has been falling dramatically. In the 2020 presidential election, there were significant drops, down 28 points in Florida, 18 in Texas and Wisconsin, 16 points in Nevada, 12 in Pennsylvania, and 10 points in Arizona. Their main concerns: jobs, the economy, healthcare, effective schools, and public safety. That's evident in Colorado's Senate race, where Republican Joe O'Dea in Spanish is promoting everything from jobs to lower gas prices. And incumbent Democrat Michael Bennet highlighting his actions, not words, helping pass the American Rescue Plan and a child tax credit.
Los logros hablan más claro que las palabras.
Republicans could be hurting their chances too, though. Critics accusing the governors of Florida and Texas of using undocumented immigrants as political pawns, busing, even flying them to the home of Vice President Harris, New York City, and affluent Martha's Vineyard. In Washington, I'm Scott Thuman.
A Bonnie and Clyde duo is in custody as federal agents join the search for an accused arsonist. A closer look at both cases in tonight's Maryland's Most Wanted.
By bus and by plane, migrants arriving in so-called sanctuary cities and states without warning. I'm Christine Frizan with the very latest on what some are calling a political ploy.
In this week's Maryland's Most Wanted, the Bonnie and Clyde-like duo accused in a brutal assault is now in custody.
Plus, an argument over a declined credit card erupts into flames. Federal agents now joining the search for a Baltimore woman accused in a brazen arson. Here's Alexa Ashwell.
Investigators say this woman became so enraged by a declined credit card that she set fire to a gas station. That was 2 months ago. And now the U.S. Marshal Service needs your help tracking her down.
July 1st, 2022, East Baltimore. Investigators say 28-year-old Amber Anthony and her mother pull into this Carroll Motors Fuel on East North Avenue. The mother walks inside to pay. Outside, Anthony begins fueling up the car. Unaware, the cashier had accidentally activated the wrong pump, and her credit card had actually been declined.
When the card's declined, she goes inside and speaks to the cashier.
Investigators say Anthony confronts the clerk, and things quickly escalate.
She even threatened the cashier beforehand that she was going to light the place on fire if they didn't provide her with the gas.
Al Maresca is a deputy marshal with the U.S. Marshal Service. He says Anthony carried out the threat, using a lighter to set fire to paper, then placing the burning pieces into the cashier's turnstile, then a nearby ATM.
She lights a fire near the cash register. She lights another fire near the ATM.
The cashier calls 911 as the fires quickly spread. Anthony drives off before police and firefighters arrive. But surveillance cameras captured the fiery encounter, as well as the car's license plate. Still, Anthony has yet to be found.
The greatest concern here is that the public safety. Property can be replaced, but a life cannot. If an individual is willing to start a fire next to another human being, that obviously shows they have a disregard for human life.
What can you tell us about Anthony? Does she have a criminal history?
So this individual has had extensive run-ins with the law.
Problems including a history of arrests for assaults and theft. In fact, court records show Anthony is also wanted in Baltimore County for failing to appear for trial in a theft case. Investigators stressing Anthony can be unpredictable.
In this case, there's no doubt that individual, at least at the time, was mentally unstable, and we need to make sure that this person is taken into custody so she can answer for her crimes.
Take a good look. Anthony stands about 5'2" and weighs approximately 120 pounds. Investigators say she may or may not still have this piercing above her lip there. Investigators do believe she's still in the Baltimore area, so if you have any information to her whereabouts, you're asked to contact the U.S. Marshal Service. The number right here, 1-877-WANTED-2. Or you can contact Maresca directly. His number right there, 202-819-5058. A Bonnie and Clyde-like duo wanted in a brutal assault is now in custody. Back in June, 35-year-old Trey McEachin and 36-year-old Nakina Hill were featured on Maryland's Most Wanted. The U.S. Marshal Service says tipsters who watched this segment led them to the fugitives. McEachin was arrested after a brief chase in northwest Baltimore, and Hill a few weeks later in northeast Baltimore. Investigators say the pair beat a man unconscious and then robbed him back in June.
Hill, we do know, has a prior of attempted first-degree murder. Mr. McEachin, we do know that he's a noted and certified gang member. He's a member of the Black Guerrilla family here in Baltimore, so he does have a criminal past.
Like this duo, a reward is being offered for information into Anthony's whereabouts. Remember, you can always remain anonymous. I'm Alexa Ashwell, and this is Maryland's Most Wanted.
Baltimore police are looking for help in identifying a murder suspect. Take a look at your screen. The person is accused of beating and robbing 60-year-old Victor Melabayebus in August. It happened on South Kenwood Avenue near Fleet Street. That suspect was seen leaving the area in a 2005 gold Buick Regal. If you have any information, call Baltimore police or Metro Crime Stoppers at 1-866-7-LOCK-UP.
Well, Baltimore City Schools responding to some criticism surrounding the Jewish holiday Yom Kippur, among the holiest of the year. The school system scheduled parent-teacher conferences on that holiday, and some say that's disrespectful to families who want to celebrate. The school system released a statement today apologizing for that scheduling conflict. It says schools are now being directed to provide alternative days and times to attend parent-teacher conferences to families who cannot attend because of Yom Kippur. Athletic games scheduled for that holiday have also been postponed. A 16-year-old Randallstown High School student was arrested today after police say he brought a gun into the school. The school says a staff member and a school safety assistant found a student acting suspiciously in the hallway. The staff member then called a resource officer who found the gun in the student's backpack.
Making headlines, another warning about the spotted lanternfly. This invasive insect now threatening vineyards and crops needed to make beer. Brad Bell with her Sinclair sister station in Washington has a look at what's being done to stop the invasion.
Bug people have been warning us about these things for a while. Spotted lanternflies, kind of pretty little bugs from Asia, with an appetite wine lovers might find borderline evil.
Lanternfly go after vineyards, wine growers very, very aggressively.
If that isn't bad enough, they reportedly also have a major taste for hops, the stuff from which beer is made. So, a bug which threatens the beer and wine supply. Got your attention yet? If not, this will. They have arrived in Maryland in a big way.
Vineyards in Harford County are actually experiencing product loss, reduced yields of grapes.
Kempton Sumter is heading up the Maryland Department of Agriculture Spotted Lanternfly Survey. We reached out to him after an interview we were conducting with State Delegate Neil Parrott in Hagerstown yesterday kept getting interrupted by bombarding bugs. And we realized what they were. They were crawling everywhere. After first appearing in Pennsylvania in 2014, they are now widespread across northern Maryland and heading south, oftentimes riding on trains.
People are living alongside just tens of thousands of lanternflies. They're coming in their homes as soon as they open doors. The excretions from lanternfly, the honeydew that they pump out after they feed, causes mold to grow and attracts wasps and ants and bees.
Gross, right? Well, that's where you come in. The state is asking for your help.
If you see it, identify it, squish it. Never let it live.
Earlier in the summer, they look like this.
Squish them.
Soon they'll be laying egg masses like this. So for the sake of the wineries and breweries,
squish those too.
And that's it. The state says stomp them. For the sake of the environment, don't go spraying pesticides all over the place. The spotted lanternflies may be a nuisance, but they really won't do much damage around your home. In Gaithersburg, Brad Bell, Fox 45 News.
Well, over the past month, Fox 45 News viewers have spotted the spotted lanternflies and shared these pictures with us via Chime In. Reminder, if you see one, you heard Brad Bell there, squish them. It's so hard to say to do. Well, they should not be allowed to live, they say, because they will multiply fast and will cause havoc on the local environment.
Busloads of migrants are arriving in Washington, D.C. The latest group Texas Governor Greg Abbott has sent was to make the point about the situation on the border. This morning, 2 buses dropped off 100 immigrants outside of the vice president's house in Washington, D.C. D.C. nonprofits who are helping immigrants were waiting for the buses actually miles away at Union Station. They say they were not told the buses changed route.
They were just literally dumped like human garbage in front of the vice president's house. That's un-Christian, un-Texan, un-American, and something that should not be allowed.
Washington, D.C. is not the only city getting bus loads of migrants, many of them saying they're getting no warning. Some of them are overwhelmed by the challenges of caring for these migrants. National correspondent Christine Frizzell brings us the latest.
Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts, just the latest destination for migrants from Texas on a flight funded by Florida.
Our message to them is we are not a sanctuary state, and it's better to be able to go to a sanctuary jurisdiction. And yes, we will help facilitate that transport for you.
Local leaders say migrants were lied to.
A lot of them were told that they were going to be met here with jobs, with housing, and several of the people here have immigration appointments that they thought they were being sent to.
Migrants also dropped off outside of Vice President Kamala Harris's residence in Washington, D.C. One migrant outside asked by Fox News if he thought the border was open.
Yeah, everybody believes that the border is open. It's open because we enter, we come in, free. No problem.
In Chicago, the National Guard has been called in to help with food, shelter, and medical services after busloads of people were sent there. And in New York City, where more than 11,000 asylum seekers have arrived in the last few months. Mayor Eric Adams said this week the city's shelter system is nearing its breaking point. Sending migrants to so-called sanctuary cities and states has been going on for months now, with a brand new poll in Texas showing 52% of people there support the effort. Governor Greg Abbott has said repeatedly it's time for people who live outside of border states to pitch in and help.
It was just Texas and Arizona that bore the brunt of all of the chaos and all the problems that come with it. Now the rest of America is understanding exactly what is going on.
For now, it's clear the crisis is becoming more widespread, with those new to the challenges saying the political play does have some bright spots.
It's pathetic, it is weak, and this island community has shown how strong we are and really shown the best of America.
In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzau.
Losses across the board on Wall Street today. The Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ all closing in the red as the downward trend continues amid economic concerns. Stocks have slumped since an early week sell-off after a concerning inflation report. Investors fearing the Fed will remain aggressive with rate hikes. Well, high inflation has spending slowing in some areas, but overall spending picked up slightly in August from July. That's according to the U.S. Commerce Department. Retail sales rose 0.3%. Business at furniture stores slipped, as did online shopping. The economy might have dodged a bullet with negotiators avoiding a potential railroad strike, which could have choked supply chains. Well, some good news, though. The labor market is holding strong. The number of first-time claims for unemployment benefits fell for the fifth straight week to the lowest level in 3 months.
Well, another consumer alert tonight. Nissan is recalling more than 200,000 pickup trucks sold here in the U.S. because they could roll away. The 2020 through 2023 Titan or Frontier pickups need repairs. Owners are urged to use the parking brake every time they park because there's no guarantee the truck still will be there if you forgot to do that. So far, there are no reported injuries. Well, the end of an era in tennis. We're taking a look back at Roger Federer's career as he announces his retirement. Queen Elizabeth's procession continues through the UK. How long some people were willing to wait to pay respects.
And we're looking at a gorgeous weekend. Tomorrow will be nice and warm, but it won't be too humid. But the humidity and our temperatures gradually rise as we finish out the weekend. I'll let you know how hot it gets coming up in my full forecast.
It has been 1 week since Queen Elizabeth died, and people across the world are gathering in London to see her lying in state. A steady stream of mourners have been filing past her coffin since yesterday. Some people waiting in line for nearly 10 hours.
To come in that room and see that, I just broke down inside, and I didn't bow. I knelt to the floor on my knees, bowed my head to the Queen. Everybody in the crowd was impeccably behaved. There was no malice or anything. Everybody was friends, and it was fantastic.
It is so nice to hear members of Britain's military starting to carry out rehearsals ahead of the Queen's funeral on Monday. Global icon Roger Federer announced his retirement from tennis today in a post on social media. In a 25-year professional career, he won 20 Grand Slam singles titles and became the highest-paid athlete in all of sports. Here's Tennis Channel's John Wertheim for more on the Swiss legend.
A theme of extravagance echoed throughout the career of Roger Federer.
Now they'll make room on the mantle for another.
The man always seemed to have plenty. Plenty of charm, plenty of time, plenty of decency.
Always such a gracious winner.
And of course, plenty of talent. Federer, who announced his retirement today, was kissed by the tennis gods. Gliding around the court without sound or sweat, he performed tennis more than he played tennis. And he did so at once with a brutal economy and a wealth of flair. He possessed every shot in the book and authored a good many original editions as well.
Oh, can you believe it?
While harder to measure, he also set records for popularity.
Roger, please over here.
His on-court grace extended, and extends present tense, to the way he lived his life. Some of this was easy to spot. The philanthropy, the buying the ball kids pizza, being the kind of celebrity who never saw through people. Which is why he turned this global sport into a series of home games.
We've got tennis royalty in Roger Federer.
For almost a quarter century as a pro, Roger Federer gripped a racket.
Right there. That's why he's the greatest of all time.
And he gripped the entire sport as well.
Well, Roger Federer announced that his last event will be at next week's Laver Cup, where he will be teaming up with fellow tennis legends Rafa Nadal, Novak Djokovic, and Andy Murray for the first time. Catch all of the action of the Laver Cup live on the Tennis Channel starting next Friday, September 23rd.
It's been gorgeous weather here and perfect for tennis. We've got more of where that came from. If you like tennis, great weather over the weekend to do that, or anything that you can do outside. You'll want to get that done. We're talking a fantastic weekend with warming temperatures and lots of sunshine. 65 for the current temperature with clear skies and winds out of the north-northeast around 3 miles per hour. A great view of Camden Yards in the background. Across the state, or M&T Bank Stadium, across the state, we're seeing temperatures mainly in the 60s and 70s, but these numbers will continue to fall and will stay nice and clear. Temperatures drop to the 50s and 60s by the morning, so you may need a jacket as you head outside. Then as we make our way into the afternoon, we reach the 70s and the 80s. We'll be slightly warmer than what we were today. However, it's going to be less humid and we'll have plenty of sunshine. Today we were in that comfortable range, but it feels even drier and more pleasant tomorrow. Then as we head into the weekend, it starts to get a little more sticky, especially on Sunday and Monday. That's when we're looking at summer-like high temperatures getting close to the 90s. We'll have high pressure move over the region as we head into the night. And then tomorrow we stay nice and quiet as we start the day with temperatures in the 50s and 60s around 7 a.m. That high pressure system continues to build over our area, keeping us dry. But once that departs, we'll have more clouds moving in on Saturday. It does look like by the afternoon we'll have more sunshine. This particular model, though, does keep the clouds overhead. As we take a look at Tropical Storm Fiona, max sustained winds are at 60 miles per hour right now. It's expected to move over the Lesser Antilles before approaching Puerto Rico and Hispaniola, then making a northward turn, but it's still too early to say exactly where it goes after Tuesday. Notice how the cone does get a little bit wider, so that's something that we'll have to watch over the next few days. As we continue overnight, our temperatures fall to 57 with clear and quiet conditions. It will be chilly and you may want the jackets as you head outside in the morning, but we quickly warm up. Highs go from the 50s to the 60s, the 70s, and then to the 80s as we head into the afternoon. We're looking at temperatures slightly above average, but again, it won't be very humid. We'll have lots of sunshine throughout the day with just a few clouds. Then as we make our way into the rest of the weekend, expect those temperatures to gradually start to rise. 84 on Saturday with lots of sunshine. Then for the Ravens home opener on Sunday, 88. So it's going to be hot, a little bit sticky, feeling like the 90s. Make sure that you're staying hydrated and dressing for the heat. Then 90 on Monday. After that, we stay in the upper 80s as we get closer to the fall equinox. Back to you.
Thanks, Jasmine. Ahead on the late edition, a woman gets carjacked in a busy parking lot, and you won't believe who stepped in to help. Lamar Jackson and company hope to cash out with a win at the bank this Sunday. Could a J.K. Dobbins return be near? An update on the Ravens running back ahead on Sports Unlimited.
For the second straight day, J.K. Dobbins had a full practice with the Ravens as his road to recovery ramps up. Dobbins went through individual drills during the media viewing session, and he was really moving well with and without the ball. Could this be the week we see him back out there on the field? Welcome into a brand new edition of Sports Unlimited. The last time we saw Dobbins in a game setting, He's being carted off the field. The torn ACL caused him to miss the entire 2021 season, but being that this is his second straight day practicing in full with the team, it's a pretty good sign as far as his status for Sunday goes.
Yeah, I mean, he's working through his process every day. I feel like he's getting better every day. I'm not exactly sure when he's going to be out there. We love the progress he's making, though. And, he's going to be out here pretty soon. I can't put a date on it right now, though.
An off night for the O's before one of the biggest series of the year. 3 teams will earn wild card berths in the American League. And right now, the O's are on the outside looking in. The 3-game stint with Toronto could really shift the momentum in their favor. Right now, Baltimore is 4.5 games back of that final spot, and that's held by Tampa. Toronto is a half game ahead of the Rays. The O's have 6 games left against the Jays, so a series win would be huge. A sweep would have the Birds sitting pretty. Game 1 gets underway Friday just after 7 p.m. Coming up tonight on Sports Unlimited, Kevin Zeitler was on the field for the Ravens' 2021 loss to Miami. How the Ravens' O-line is approaching their meeting with the Fins in 2022. Ahead on Sports Unlimited.
Well, new tonight on the late edition, flooding has become a major concern across the nation. The tense moments of a dramatic water rescue out west. Oh, it was such fun at the fair. Well, the numbers are in, and this year's Maryland State Fair saw record attendance. More than 588,000 people visited the fair. That's a 16% increase. The fair also saw an increase in livestock, exhibits, and an all-time gross income for fair attractions. The fair this year moved to a 3-weekend format instead of the traditional 12 straight days. Fair officials say that contributed to the success. Preparation for next year's fair, guess what? Already underway.
A 6-month setback. Marilyn Mosby's trial pushed back yet again as her defense attorney apologizes for something he said live on our air.
We did struggle the first 24 hours. And I said that earlier, and I will say that again. We struggled. We needed help.
DPW admits to botching their response to West Baltimore's E. coli water crisis. Fox 45 News takes testing matters into our own hands.
I also want to thank you, Mom, for giving us opportunity to coach your son, do our best to mentor your son, love your son.
And powerful words from Mervo's head football coach as a fallen teammate, son, and student is honored tonight.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News Late Edition.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Late Edition. I'm Rielle Creighton. We're following two big stories tonight as a new date is set for City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby's trial. Plus, many in West Baltimore are struggling to trust the water supply.
I would like for the mayor to drink this water. And if he he can come over and have a glass of water with me.
Keith Daniels is following up with that woman, but we begin with Jeff Babel, who sat in on Marilyn Mosby's hearing this afternoon, and he shares how the trial will move forward.
Well, this case isn't expected to hit the courtroom now for another 6 months, and in that time, experts say a lot can happen to change its course.
She had asked the court for a speedy trial, but today, State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby learned her federal perjury trial has been delayed for another 6 months.
Is what it is. You got the court's order, and we're going to follow it.
You wanted a speedy trial?
Yeah. This is as fast as the court could do it.
During a 2-hour hearing this afternoon, the judge rescheduled the trial for March 27. The delay comes after Mosby's own defense team added an expert witness to their case, forcing prosecutors to ask for more time to request a witness of their own.
They asked for a speedy trial, but you have to remember, the Mosby defense team caused these delays.
It does appear that the defense in this case has really forced the postponements.
Prosecutors also demanded to know more about one of Mosby's witnesses who claims that her net worth declined by 30% during the pandemic and compares the decline of her non-operational travel business with the decline of other U.S. corporations. But Assistant U.S. Attorney Leo Rise asked the judge, "I have no idea how Walt Disney World is comparable to Mahogany Elite Enterprises." Meanwhile, experts say the 6-month delay in the case could cause further complications.
I don't expect the theories to change much, but there's always the risk that witnesses may become unavailable.
If the government has more time to get a rebuttal expert or to parse through Mosby's representations of what she will present at trial, I think it definitely puts them in a better position.
Prosecutors have asked the judge to impose a gag order in the case after Mosby's defense attorney blasted government prosecutors outside the courthouse this week. She has yet to impose one.
This is simply a distraction. This is a very learned judge and a judge not interested in the antics.
As for the gag order, the judge is expected to decide in October. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Well, here's a look now at the new timeline for the case. The defense will provide more information on their witnesses on October 7th. There will be 2 hearings in January, both on motion and deadlines. And then there will be a pretrial hearing on March 7th. Jury selection is scheduled for March 23rd and 24th. And again, the trial is set to begin on March 27th.
The most critical time in a crisis is those first 24 hours. And frankly, I'm disgusted on how those first 24 hours was handled.
It doesn't take long, as you can imagine, but I think to your point, and to my opening remarks and my closing remarks, there was a lot of lessons learned, right? And communication was a huge lesson.
City Council members pressing DPW this afternoon on why the E. coli crisis in West Baltimore wasn't addressed sooner. The Department of Public Works says the contaminated water was first discovered on Friday, September 2nd, but it took until the following Monday to notify the public. DPW insists that they could have done better. Well, trust in the water supply isn't a given for the people of West Baltimore. So now Fox 45 is having independent tests done. Keith Daniels is watching the process to help give residents some peace of mind.
Well, when you take a drink or use the water in your home, you want to be confident that it's safe, no contamination. But for some residents in West Baltimore, their confidence is shaken, especially for one woman. And tonight, we're doing what we can to help ease those concerns. In this Harlem Park neighborhood in West Baltimore, taking steps toward testing. 2 EPA-certified water samplers from 2 Maryland Department of Environment approved water testing laboratories.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
At the home of Denise Knight.
Now we're moving in the right direction. Now at least maybe I can get some peace.
Knight unnerved since the E. coli contamination water scare over the Labor Day weekend. Skepticism still prevalent, despite the lifting of the no boil advisory announced by Mayor Brandon Scott Friday, and the water cleared for use in homes. The woman in the window Tuesday, not by